Hey guys, it's Tanya.
Hi, it's Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
Yeah, so we are continuing on our binge. We are like a Rolling Stone. We just love Adam Sandler, and as you can tell, we are obsessed with him. So this week, today, we're going to be talking about his movie Anger Management. I don't know why I feel the need to announce that like an old school
I know
radio host,
you got
but
very you got very serious. It's like, and today we'll be talking about anger management.
I don't know what the heck I was thinking. But yeah, so anger management. This is a nice little gem of a film. I like it. It was, early 2000s, like 2003. Um, but it of course is great because it has Jack Nicholson. I mean, come on, and he's funny and he's,
Hmm.
in the lead role. But it really I think Adam was really stretching out his wings here and kind of like, okay, different types of comedy, and
Hmm.
this was really tied in with our podcast because it involves doing a type of therapy for anger
Right.
management, which is bizarre. The you know the mode itself is really
Yeah,
odd.
yeah. It's pretty unconventional.
Yeah, it's so if you have not watched this, again, you all know this. Spoilers are we're just discussing the whole movie. So if you're coming here, it's gonna be, and it's
Yeah,
it's well over 20 years
yeah.
that it's been out.
Maybe pause, watch it, come back if you feel like you need to see it.
Yeah, yeah. But it is like a funny movie. It's very, very, I think, not very insightful towards therapy in general, because if my therapist did this to me, I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
But it's just not
yeah.
a great thing.
Yeah, the ethical boundaries are maybe they're a little different for Dr. Rydell than they are for anyone else, but
I
it's
think so. I think so. I think he's in an alternate universe and he's Jack Nicholson, so he's just can do whatever the heck he
mhm.
wants. But um yeah, so we meet Adam's character, David. What is it, Busnick or something?
I didn't think
Busnick,
so. Something. It's yeah, Buznick.
something with a B.
Yeah,
Busnick.
Buznick.
The first scene we see is him when he's younger. He is crushing on this girl. He's at this like block party in Brooklyn, and he's like, "Oh, let's he's kind of watching her, and she comes over and she's like, "Want to play truth or dare?" blah blah blah. He gets an opportunity. She dares him like, "Kiss me." And then he gets pants by the neighborhood bully Arnie Shankman. And so he's humiliated and kind of sets the tone for his personality that we see in his life, where he's very much walked upon. He's very meek and does not stick up for his needs, people pleasing. He's even in his job in the beginning, he's going off to this. He was invited by his boss to come to some like, I don't know, conference or meeting or something in St. Louis, and he's calling his boss saying, "Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity." And his boss just like hangs up on him as he's going to the
Yeah.
airport. His
Yeah,
boss just doesn't even care.
and he's still pretending like he's talking to him, and his girlfriend's like, "He hung up on you already, didn't he?" And he's like,
Like she knows him so well. She's like, You're just gonna continue to put on the show." So we really see an established, definitive people pleaser, right? Someone who is afraid to push boundaries, but also needs to put on a show for other people to make sure things are okay. And his girlfriend Linda, who's played by Marissa Tomei, who is just, you know, beautiful and never ages.
"No, she
But
doesn't." I mean, well, and then she was young, but but she's
yeah, now
every
she's like still looks like
yeah,
that
I know.
age.
I had to
It's
Google
crazy.
her. I mean, because of course everyone knows her. Well, I don't know if everyone knows her, but from my cousin Vinny. I mean, like that's just like
Oh
and
yeah.
everything else. I mean, she's just great, and yeah, she plays. She's very good as his girlfriend in this.
She is. She definitely balances them out very well. But she definitely is in on seeing that he's being held back in life with this personality traits, I would say. So yeah, and then we start to see that he on the plane, he after having an incident of people pleasing, this guy sits in his seat and is like, "Go find another seat." "Nah, just go sit in my seat," kind of thing. And then we see Dr. Rydell like, "Oh, over here, come on over here." And so instead of confronting this guy, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna just take the easier route." He
Right.
has a lot of avoidance. I would say some social anxiety. He's kind of afraid to confront that,
Mm-hmm.
confront people.
He's kind of stunted and just really high anxiety too. And it's interesting too because once we know the premise of the movie, which again we're going to be spoiling the whole movie for you guys, but it's
That's
every
what we do.
so so pretty much you start looking at Dr. Buddy Rydell's or Buddy, every single thing he does, he's trying to trigger him. He's trying to get Dave to have some sort of response. Even the first time when they're even on the plane and they're both on the armrest and Buddy's looking at him, he's like, that's my room. That's you're on my side. You're doing this, or when he's like really obnoxious, laughing at the movie. It's just like every single thing. He's like, "Come on, I'm trying to give this kid a breakthrough, or just trying to let's not make it a whole 2 week ordeal." But it's interesting.
Yeah, he's really laying out the traps for him. He's like, "Come on, I'm trying to get you to react, trying to get you to confront this," and because we do realize that from the beginning, this is a setup that was actually placed by his girlfriend. Yeah, very much that spoiler alert, but yeah, so it starts right from the plane, and then he all of a sudden gets arrested for quote unquote assaulting a what do you call a stewardess or
Flight
airplane
attendant. Yeah,
hostess,
flight
flight
attendant.
attendant. Yeah, airplane hostess. I don't know what the hell was that.
What year is
It's
this?
at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Well,
I'm living in the 50s.
yeah, those women. Yeah, it is funny too because like
Oh my
when
god.
I first was watching it, I had forgot that I watched this movie before, and so I completely forgot everything that happened. So I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh my god, I don't even remember when he assaulted her. Like, how did he? How did she end up with that arm thing? Like, I was like, how? Not realizing like that maybe it didn't really happen that way, but it's just really funny.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of learn like you're learning if you're a first time watcher of it, you're not aware that this is all a setup, right? And that it's for Buddy to be able to confront these things. Um, then it just gets more and more ridiculous. He gets arrested and gets ordered to be in the care of
Right.
or no, he doesn't get ordered to be in the care then, not at that point the first time. It's just she's like, "Well, you need to do like, some anger management classes." He happens to see a book of Dr. Rydell's and he's like, "Oh, he does this. He could vouch for me. He could just sign off on
Yeah,
this."
this is the guy from the plane. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll be easy.
And then he's like, "Well, just come to one so we could say you could hang out." And so he's like, "Oh, cool. Okay, I'll just get this done and over. This is a misunderstanding." And again, even just the fact that he doesn't fight for himself in this, because I was thinking, wow, if this grave injustice of being like, "Oh my gosh, like I did not assault someone and now I have to go and do anger management classes and this is not me and I wasn't raising my voice and I was tased,
He was like
you
whisper
know."
talking, like, can I have a headset? Can I have this?
Yeah.
And sir, why are you yelling at me? It's
Yeah, and they're like, "Keep your voice down." He's like, "Am I crazy?" Like he was like definitely being
yeah,
gaslit.
oh
Like,
yeah, the whole crew, which we find out we're all paid by Buddy later on. But everyone is like, yeah, completely gaslighting him through this whole thing. He's like, wait a
yeah.
minute, am I yelling? Do I have anger issues?
Which is totally like hilarious in this setting, but obviously, if this were happening in, in real life, which I would hope it wouldn't, I'd hope no therapist would do this.
Yeah.
Um, but it is pretty hilarious because you're like, okay, this guy was totally just convinced of something. But I just remember thinking like, wow, to go to court to have a charge on my record, like I would be fighting that and be like, no, you need to show me more evidence. Like I would at least feel better about it,
Yeah.
that I don't know. And I think he's just so used to being numb and kind of being like, okay, I need to just get through this and this will
Yeah.
just kind of get it out of the way, kind of thing. He's kind of always at that level where it's like too
Yeah.
much stress and he just needs to like do the thing to like
Hmm.
get over it and just move on
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And then even his lawyer, Kevin Nealon, is just kind of like the worst lawyer. He's just like, okay, not really fighting for him. It just, it's just kind of, poor Dave Adam is just like putting all his faith into him. And it's just like, All right, here's another charge against you. Here's some more stuff. And
He's like, sounds right.
yeah, and I don't think he was in on it. I think the lawyer was actually just a lawyer. Like, I don't think
Just an incompetent lawyer.
yeah.
Incompetent public defender. Yeah, I mean, I was he a public defender? Was that clear? I
I
think
don't
he
know. He
was.
probably was because I'm sure Dave didn't make a lot of money, in his job.
Yeah, yeah. He was like an executive assistant, basically like the kind of yeah to that guy. So, yeah. So then he goes to the anger management group, and he's like sitting on the outskirts. He's thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna observe, and this is cool. I'll get my, whatever. I'll
Yeah.
just do what I got to do to get through this. And then he gets like invited into the circle because he's kind of like, well, why don't you come join us? Like this is a group of people who are all very much used to, getting upset, maybe because other people are watching them or judging them or they feel judged. And so they're not going to accept. And I think Dr. Rydell knows this, like they're not going to accept him being on the
Yeah.
outside and
If
thinking
you're
like
just
he's outside of
observing.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they naturally they kind of are like, hey, you gotta come over here and like be a part of the group. And he starts to learn everybody's stories, and he's kind of like thinking like I don't belong here. He even said like, oh, I'm just here for one session, and they're like, oh, so you don't have anger issues. Like
They get up and they start yeah, kind of like getting angry at him. I thought it was really funny that we see a lot of the same people that we've seen in Mr. Deeds
yeah,
and Waterboy. We see the guy who's like, I'm very sneaky. I'm very bad with the names, but then we have the guy who always has like the lazy eye.
yeah, yeah,
So those characters were there.
yeah. We always forget the lazy eye guy.
Like, who are you? Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a staple, so we love him, but we don't know his name. But yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty funny scene. You kind of learn this cast of characters that you realize like, man, he's like, thank God he's thinking like probably like I'm not gonna have to be around them long. But then he realizes like, oh, because the doctor's like afterwards, I've come to realize that you don't need this many sessions. I'm gonna double it. I'm gonna recommend double. And he's like, whoa, what? Like,
Yeah.
and then he kind of is like, I can see that you're the type of person that's like a ticking time bomb that will go off and like
Yeah.
be a cashier and shoot everybody that bothers you kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's the example he uses. Yeah. And it's so true though. It's kind of like he's somebody that is being pushed around and may possibly come out and just explode one day.
Mhm.
And, in a way, I guess that is anger management, but I was, we were talking before in our pregame session, and I was saying like, I don't think it's necessarily anger. I think this is like boundaries. This is people pleasing. This is not being able to communicate your needs and being
Yeah.
told, or being given this impression that your needs will not be met. So you're just going to kind of get around them
Yeah.
in a way. And I think that pattern was set with maybe, like the bullies when he
Yeah.
was in that opening
Yeah.
scene with
Yeah.
Arnie Shankman.
So everything was set with his trauma or whatever happened. Like the whole block party saw everything. His whole
And mocked
yeah.
everything, even the
So
adults.
yeah, even the little girl he was going to kiss and everybody. And so I think that trauma probably made it like, I have to be I have to be invisible. I have to be meek. I have to obey the rules. I don't want to draw any attention to myself, and so that's definitely not confronting people. That's letting people push you around. And so that's definitely what Buddy and his girlfriend were trying to get Dave out of, getting him to start confronting people, start to have a voice, to be seen, to be loud.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I really I related to Dave, David, Dave,
Yeah, Dave.
Dave. Because I definitely felt that way. And I don't know if you felt this way as just being the youngest of a brood of children. I think that can sometimes come in. That can sometimes be the personality of a youngest of a lot of kids, where there is some dysfunction because there's the kind of I think working you know I personality type for like the youngest in pop culture is very much like, oh, they're the clown, they're the baby, they've been
Right.
babied kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think in our experiences, and I don't want to speak for you, but like I related to this and kind of feeling like, you get kind of bullied, just
Mhm.
because you're the youngest one there. It's just kind of
Yeah.
natural. And maybe you take in to kind of be like, oh, I'm gonna, maybe, get louder, or maybe you take that internally and you're kind of like, oh, maybe to like not anger this sibling or whatever, I'm going to
Yeah.
kind of do this or kind of walk around that. And we had other
Yeah.
factors growing up. I
Yeah.
realized, that complicated that.
Well, I know my role, like, when you when you look at the role, I think my role often was like the peacekeeper, or, trying to, make everyone, not the clown, not, but trying to make everyone happy. So
mm,
probably very much like that, when it is like I had siblings that were very loud and known and took up a lot of energy and space, and then I had others that, just normal, but I feel like yeah, a lot of times it was trying to be quiet or invisible or the peacekeeper.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just that kind of popped in my head. I
Yeah.
just thought that was kind of, interesting. I wonder if other youngest children, because I feel, and this is my own this is my own stuff, but I feel whenever I read about in pop culture, kind of the those personality types and how they're supposed to be with the oldest, the middle, the youngest, I think that's very, very slim to none. That's very much in an idealistic,
Yeah.
high functioning family that's very healthy and cared for. And I don't think we see that much of it anymore, and so I think that is just I just wanted to put that out there, that I
Yeah.
think that that's, kind
Yeah,
of
and
something.
that probably is other things, like if there's been no childhood trauma, and like everyone's, like two-parent home, or no addiction, or no other stuff, no other things happening, no abuse, physical or verbal, or
Mhm.
whatever, like who knows what else happens throughout childhood. If you have like the stereotypical perfect childhood, maybe you would have those roles, this role play.
Right. Yeah, exactly, yeah, and it's just not really it's kinda not really it's very outmoded, outdated, and not thought about, very much thought of from a non-perspective
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, because it's
youngest
always like, oh, the
child, I
golden,
think.
the oldest is the golden, the middle is forgotten, the youngest is the jokester. Like that's what they expect, and that's not what
Yeah,
happens. And then people feel like, oh wait, I didn't
mm-mm.
have my role correct, because I'm supposed to be the most loved because I'm the oldest, or I'm supposed to be forgotten because I'm the middle, but I get the most attention and I'm the middle, or I'm supposed to be the jokester and I'm the youngest and I'm not. So it's hard
Yeah.
hard when you have those roles that are supposed to be assigned.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I never related to I was always like, I'm supposed to be the jokester and the carefree one and the person who doesn't feel like I don't know if that came across in my family. I don't think I think I was just very invisible and kind of feeling like trying to avoid landmines. That was the way I always felt internally.
Hmm.
And my actions were very much in doing things and avoiding things because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see some kind of crossover in that, and
Mhm.
wonder if anybody else kinda has that experience, but anyways, back to back to
Back
anger management.
Yeah, back to
Um,
Adam or Dave or whatever.
Adam, Dave Adam.
Yeah,
He's always Adam no matter
Adam.
what. He's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
Adam.
yeah. And
But
he definitely brought, like I mentioned, Waterboy and everything. I'm sure you saw like a bunch of the Waterboy expressions, and like when he body slammed the monk, his old bully. I was like, okay.
yes, he's got, he definitely fits in elements. His singing style, the way he has a very particular, voice and cadence in the
Yeah.
way that he sings things.
Mhm.
When Dr. Rydell was like, "Oh," or Buddy was like, "Oh, sing 'I Feel Pretty,' that will calm you down," and, the way he was just like, "I feel pretty," like, he just kinda gets into, his little mode, you know?
Yeah.
But I just yeah, I love those points when you see them, because if you're an Adam fan, you for sure are gonna recognize that. But I was laughing at that when he stopped him in the middle of the bridge and was just
Yeah.
like, "You need to sing, like,
And
this is the song."
everyone's like, move it, jerk.
That part I was cackling at, yeah. Yeah, and so then we start to realize that, Dr. Rydell's methods are really, really inappropriate, but kind of hilarious, and
Yeah.
sets up this whole, deeply, deeply wrong and unethical exposure therapy type of process, which in the end, of course, it was effective, but, it's not something we could ever really do and get away with. I think that
Right.
would be very, very difficult. Maybe a coach could do that and be like, "I'm gonna bill you for whatever, this amount every day," and they could,
Hmm.
for somebody who's really wealthy, but, yeah, so he moves in and he's like, I'm here, my method is complete wraparound, like, I'm here 24/7. I have phone taps. I'm here. I sleep here. I monitor you. I go everywhere you go. He's just like his parasite,
Yeah.
for the next 30 days or whatever
Yeah.
it was, which is just overwhelming. And even to the point where he's sleeping, he doesn't have his couch, so he's like, well, I'm gonna sleep. I have to sleep in bed with you. And then he's like, oh my God, you can see Adam's face. He's so uncomfortable. And again, these are all scenarios where it's like, you should exert your boundaries. You
Yes.
should be like,
You should be like,
no.
heck no, you're staying in a hotel. You're not staying in my house. You're not sleeping in bed with me. Like, so there was so many times Dave could have, and I think Buddy was trying to say, like, I'm going to do all this to get a reaction, to see if he's going to have any sort of, not even just anger, just show like, hey, I can have this little bit of self-confidence and just tell you what I feel without worrying what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, yeah. Although, when I think about it though, in that scenario where Dr. Rydell kind of he has a power over him, right? To sign or not sign or go and
Yeah.
recommend more
Yeah.
time
Go
or
to
recommend
jail.
jail time.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a power dynamic there. I know but this is what we do, right? We psychoanalyze, is I think that may have made it
Oh, yeah,
tougher,
definitely. Definitely.
because he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is on the line and I just need to get this out of the way." But it's like almost like it's building and building, and I think that's part of the experiment of this
Mhm.
like exposure
Yeah.
experiment that
Well, and
he's
at
setting
first,
up
yeah,
for
and at
him.
first the relationship is just kind of like, okay, well, you're kind of coming to my group. It'll just be very cash, like, and then we go back to court, and then, oh wait, now I have to live with you, and then back to court, it just like keeps getting worse and worse. And it's like, and then
Yeah.
then it's like you could go to jail for 4 years. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's just trying
Yeah.
to, so then the stakes are higher and higher. It's like I have to still do what this crazy doctor is recommending I do.
Yeah. And again, I totally I feel that with Dave, and kind of like sometimes you've gotten into this kind of power dynamic with someone and it feels like, oh, if I start exerting a boundary now, wait, like they were my friend and I told them like this kind of secret or something, and maybe I don't want them to tell that, so I have to kind of please them and not anger them and
Right.
not upset them, and it kind of becomes like an abuse dynamic.
Mhm.
I've had that with I definitely had that with a good friend of mine for a long time and kind of recognized that.
Mhm.
Um, and so it really is, I think, something where, in this movie, obviously, it's something funny because you just kind of see these ridiculous things that you're like, okay, nobody would put up with this, but
Right.
like, in terms of like sleeping in bed with him and then saying, I sleep naked, and then spooning him, and he, instead of like saying, this is I need to find another person. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, this is just too much. This is disgusting and
Yeah.
ridiculous, because he's farting in his face and he's like, he just sleeps on the floor to get
Yeah.
through it. He's like always kind of trying to avoid confrontation,
Mhm.
always.
Yeah. Then also, if you think on the other end too, like Buddy Rydell, like he is in it. Like, so like he is 100% invested in his clients. So
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
if you see it the other way, it's like, all right, Linda paid me for a service. I am going to make sure this person learns how to confront people and learns his self-worth.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's Dr. Rydell is persistent. He really is. I mean, and he sets up and he works out, all this network of people to
Yeah.
help him and support him, even including a judge and, all the people on the airline, and the friend who he hires as the actress, Heather Graham, when they're in Boston. But yeah, starting from when he moves in and he's like, I got to go everywhere with you. He starts to realize, oh, that means literally everywhere. He's like, oh, well, I'll see ya. I'm going to work. And he's like, oh, well, we're going to work,
It's like,
kind
what?
of thing. And he's like, oh my gosh. And so he's realizing the situation he's in, and he's like, oh my God, he's coming to work. And then he goes in and he makes things, like, he makes them late, and he makes things really, awful with his boss to kind of confront him, because his boss is pretty abusive. He like
Yeah.
calls him names, and he's really,
He steals his ideas.
condescending.
Yeah, and he's just
Yeah,
doesn't really,
a jerk.
yeah, give him credit or just realize his
for, for the husky cat line. God, I loved that so much.
I think it's so funny that the fat cat was in like a little starter jacket or like a big sweatshirt. He's just like a big fat kid.
Yes, and, like, the little beret and, like, would just sit there meatball would just sit there like just a little meatball. Oh, so cute. Um, but, yeah, I think that, and then Dave starts to realize, "Oh my gosh, this guy is ruining my life." He's really just kinda getting worse and worse and worse.
Hmm.
But really it's just Dr. Rydell putting the pressure more and more on him like, "Hey, this is what happens," because that is what builds. The more and more you kind of hold things inside, the more, not only does that build up, but the more it's kind of that's what people expect from
Yeah.
you after that. And it's like those boundaries and expectations of
Hmm.
interaction.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
kept, and I
And
think it was like probably harder for Dr. Rydell too than probably other clients because, Dave wasn't exploding. He wasn't letting out. So it's like, okay, let me do something more like ridiculous. Let me just put in another situation that most people would probably say no or flip out to. But, like
yeah.
what are his limits?
He was a tough case, I think. I think he knew that probably from the way Linda described, but he was really seeing like, "Oh my gosh, this guy really does intake everything and just want to avoid confrontation at
Hmm.
all costs."
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think there are moments where he of course he gets angry and upset like with his bully when he confronts him.
Hmm.
But to me, I mean, maybe not the way he does it, but to me, it seems like, okay, that's justified that he would be really upset with this, and
Hmm.
it seems like he's trying to kind of maybe he expects even more at that point,
Yeah.
confronting it, so it just is like then it overloads his anger, and then it proves Dr. Rydell right, that like, yeah, you would really once released, it's gonna be a volcano, right?
Hmm.
And you're
Yeah.
gonna
Because
you're gonna punch a monk.
and then they had like such a great bonding too after that. They're like, "Yeah, this is awesome." And then it just I think he probably expected like, "Okay, well Dave is going to turn a new leaf and he's going to start confronting people." But then when he saw that he still hasn't changed in other ways, then he's like, "Okay, I need to really up the ante, even more."
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he had to keep kind of pushing him, and then he goes towards something that's very, very important to him, which is his girlfriend,
Mhm.
Linda. And he starts to kind of make him set him up to look bad, like going with that other woman, kind of challenging him to
Mhm.
go up and be with her, even though he has no interest. He's just like, okay, I got to do this. But I was sitting there, I was like, oh my gosh, seriously, you are with someone you don't want to cheat on her, and this person is telling you, oh, just go see if you can like you know pick up this girl, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, but then he kind of put it as like you go, I challenge you to talk to this person or whatever, pick her, hit on her and see if she'll talk to you or whatever, and then I will sign the paperwork. So he always had that over him of,
Yeah,
I will release you if you do this. You need to take
yeah,
a break from Linda and then do this. You need to, because all these things, he's like, he's not going to want to take a break from his girlfriend, but he did because Dr. Raydell told him to. He said, I don't want to talk to somebody, like I'm in a relationship or whatever. So he still talks to him, like it's just,
yeah. And in that way, when I think about it that way, like that's a good point because he is still holding that over his head. So he's really training him like, hey, even when somebody has the power like that, you still need to stick up for
yeah,
yourself, So I think that really is a good lesson, to
yeah,
kind of because I think that's what he was really trying to kind of say is that people will always try to hoard power over you in particular
yeah, yeah.
situations,
And
like not in general.
in real life too. I mean, like this happens so often to people, like with their bosses, with any, it's like, I don't want to work, keep having to do overtime all the time, or I don't want to have to work every holiday, or I don't want to be on call, or I don't want to have to answer my email when I'm not at work, or like it just there's so many boundaries, but you feel like you have to because your boss is saying it or this or that, and a lot of people are so afraid to say no or afraid of confrontation.
Yeah. And there I mean, there's definitely I see when I think about if like a client like Dave came to me as a therapist and not in the model that they're using because I don't use that model. I don't stay 24/7 and I don't sleep with clients at all
Well, that's
and
good to know. Yeah.
I wouldn't go to their homes, nothing. So so in thinking about that, I think, I would definitely want to work on boundaries and kind of being able to find these things, but it would be a lot tougher just meeting 1 hour a week and going over that because it would take a lot to dig down there. And I think there's a lot of resistance there, so in this way, Dr. Rydell just kind of like, really, really challenges him.
Mhm.
And I'm not advocating for this type of therapy because we just couldn't do this type of
Right.
therapy. This is not, it's not ethical, and it's just not like you'd have to pay a lot of money
Mhm.
for that, and it would be a lot of time. You have to be able to work individually with a client for like 30 days at a
Yeah,
time.
well, it'd
That's
be like
just,
your own client, and
yeah, like a personal
yeah.
therapist.
Well, that's just like going back, a lot of our episodes kind of relate to each other. I was just thinking like that'd be like the doctor from Sixth Sense. He was just a one-on-one doctor. He could have just
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's kinda true. Yeah, good connection, yeah.
like
Yeah, no, that's true, though, yeah, he was kinda just with him the whole time. It was, somehow found his file magically and was with him, like, it was dead and yeah, still
so I
serving.
guess
Yeah.
it is possible, but yeah, that would
Yeah.
be a lot of work though. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that do that, like kind of like a concierge type of I am just seeing you or just seeing two clients and that's it. That's my full-time job. And
Yeah. That's actually, I mean, like, I think, and let's be honest here, we'd have to have people who'd be able to pay a
yeah.
large fee upfront, and, so it would probably be limited to people that would be able to do that. And you'd have to be available, like, if you have, kids and stuff like that, you can't be with someone 24/7. Of course, this would be like, this would be very much modified and ethical if this were
Mhm.
true. It's not like they would sleep in the same bed with them, I would hope,
Yeah.
and cuddle them and everything. But um, yeah, I think that, yeah, probably there are some, like, kinda round the clock, maybe, like you
Right.
said, concierge therapist. I think that's a good way to put it, concierge therapist, yeah.
Yeah.
That, it's very much different, but, with kind of a similar objective of like, okay, with this. But in terms of insurance billing and with people just kind of that we deal with day in and day
Mhm.
out, that's not really feasible, right?
Right.
But it is interesting though. It is like to maybe have one or two to kind of, focus on. And
Mhm.
is that something you would be interested in if you were, if it, like, obviously if it were, within, like, say, okay, I'm available to you, like, if you pay this fee up front, like, Monday through Friday from, like, 9 to 5 kinda thing or something.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like instead of like having to worry, okay, do I have like I only have to worry about these two or three clients. And or I don't know. I think it would be I feel like I've worked so hard over the years to set boundaries for myself because of my past jobs. Um and in the different things I had, pre-counseling or whatever, I didn't have boundaries, and I feel like I always let my work take over, whether I was working nights, weekends, on call, answering emails on Sunday night, interrupting family dinners, doing this, or having the effect on vacation. So I really felt like my past jobs affected my mental health and my health and everything. So I think if I were to do something like that, I would have to have some limits of like, okay, I'm here with you every day, Monday through Friday, or maybe Saturdays till 4, something like that. There would have to
Yeah.
be you can text me after 7, but I might not answer unless there's something. There would have to be some boundaries because I don't ever want to get into a situation like I was before in my past life jobs.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point because I think that kind of defeats the purpose of it, is that, like, these people would want somebody accessible at
Right.
any point, and probably, crises don't happen within a certain time frame, but at the same point, for people like us, and I agree with you with, like, the boundary thing and, like, setting that and everything. I'm at that point too where I think it would kind of just, it wouldn't work out, so it sounds good in theory to be like, oh, okay, I'm available to you during these times kind of thing. But it more than likely, people would probably have stuff outside of that, and they'd be
Right.
like, well, what's the purpose of
Yeah,
this then,
why do I have this concierge therapist or this therapist that's on call for me? And it probably would. I mean, there are probably therapists that do that and would love to do that. Like especially if they're, you know, don't have bad work experiences in the past and like
Mhm.
don't have PTSD from their past jobs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I mean, like, but I mean, it could actually be really fun, like if you do that, especially if you have two or three there clients that you love, and you're just like, okay, this is really good. I think it would be more like coaching. I think it would be hard ethically as a licensed therapist to be able to do that.
I think so too. I think that would kind of violate, some feelings of privacy and us getting too enmeshed in their lives, and then us setting boundaries, and then knowing us as people, like if we're spending that much time. And I'm not saying that that's, a bad thing to a certain degree, but I think it would push the limits of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be very tough, but I don't know, maybe some people are able to find a model that works for them. I don't know, but personally, I would not be interested in it because of the, I think it would kind of defeat the purpose of, and then you just feel guilty and stressed out and worried about them when you're like outside of that time. I don't
Yeah.
think I could do it.
No, because then you're always tied to your phone. You're just, yeah, it's very, yeah.
Yeah.
Then is it? Do you have to see them in person because it's like a concierge? Like, they probably want more. Like it's
Right. Yeah.
so.
You're kind of on call. Like even if you say like I'm not available, you kind of are on call. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of blurs that.
Yeah, then
It's
do you
really
only see
tough.
people in your town because you want to be like, okay, I have to see them in person within 20 minutes or something? Like, I don't know. I guess there'd be a lot of different things you'd have to see when you create the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It really would be really tough, I think. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of all of that and watching this movie. I couldn't help but think of the practicals of that. And I was like, I know it's a movie. I know it's ridiculous. I know therapists are, you know, we don't even know if he's a psychiatrist or a
Yeah.
psychologist. They just call him doctor. So
Or if
he's
he
got to
has
be
or
that.
if he has the degree that Dr. Phil has. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sports
It's
psychology or something.
Yeah, and I mean, so we don't really know what the what it is that, and it's a movie, yeah. So it's really,
Right.
about thinking about that, but I just couldn't. It like made me like
Right.
anxious just kind of thinking about that, but then I was like it was funny. And
Right.
yeah, so Buddy really pushes the limits with Dave, and he's like, this it starts to move in on Linda, and
Mhm.
basically is just like slowly taking over that relationship, and then gets her to say, "Oh, we need time apart with Dave," and then and then he discovers that Buddy is dating her, um, and thinks that, they're going to a ball game, and he thinks, "Oh my god, I told him my idea of a
Yeah.
proposal. He's gonna propose to her,"
Stole it.
and
Yeah. And so
yeah.
he must have, like, I was thinking too, like Buddy must have told the guys in the group, okay, this is what's happening. You guys need to go to Dave's house and let him know that I am at the Yankees game. Because
Yeah, and the girls to, like, attend with him and to go to that restaurant kinda thing. Yeah. Yeah, so they the t so that's another thing that's really tricky, like, getting people involved that are, like, also getting therapy to help someone else getting therapy, like, it's just a whole mess there,
yeah,
but yeah, so they must have been kind of in on it, at least in that
yeah.
part.
And maybe they got free therapy for doing that, because it doesn't seem like they're
Yeah, I mean
super super ethical
Yeah,
all the time. But who knows?
yeah,
But yeah, and
yeah,
and it's interesting because that was like the last thing. He's probably like, oh gosh, if Dave does not come to the game and do something, then he's failed. He's this has to be the thing that's going to trigger him. And
yeah,
he was probably so happy when he saw him get onto the field, and then Woody Harrelson lets him on, like, and then he's like, okay, I got to go. And then Buddy runs to the, up to the wherever it
the
is.
mic,
Yeah, like up to the
microphone.
microphone guy, because and then still I was like thinking like, oh my gosh, Buddy's such a jerk, because I still had no idea what was happening. I was just thinking like, okay, Buddy's gonna make them put the, will you marry me right now, not realizing that he was in on it. And he was, on team Dave. He wanted Dave to propose.
Yeah, this is all like just to get him to express his feelings and to
Yes.
not procrastinate and to take what he wants and do what he wants. I mean, some
Yeah.
of the lessons were kind of like, okay, he attacked him and gave him like a broken neck or whatever, or sprained neck, and even though Buddy at one point when he said that they're in love. He like attacked him, and then
Yeah.
he also got into a fight with a monk. Like some of the lessons were like kind of he responded in violence, which he was
Right.
like, okay, let's keep working on this. So this was kind of like the okay,
Yeah.
something that's really important to him
Yes.
is he gonna fight for this, and he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And then he did the thing that was so scary, and Linda's like, okay, I will accept this, or if you kiss me in front of all these people. And he wouldn't even kiss her in public. Like, at the airport, he shook her hand because he's like, all right, somebody's looking. I can't kiss you if somebody's looking. And
Yeah, he's got a high amount of social anxiety,
yeah,
very much.
yeah. I mean, it was pretty interesting too. Like just how how much it was well thought out, like in Buddies, like as unconventional as he was, he's like, all right, it worked, you passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
then we got to
He
see.
definitely learned his lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we were talking to, like, even Rudy Giuliani was in there, like
Mm,
that was before he became how he is now, but he
yeah.
he
When
was,
he was beloved.
yeah, when he was beloved. And I remember the person's name. It's Rob Snyder that does the "You Can Do It."
You can do it, yeah. He throws that in. It's like a running theme in his movies. Yeah. This cast of characters and themes and people and yeah, it's all Adam and we love it.
Hmm.
Um Yeah, so he learns, hey, you got to fight for this because you could lose it all. You could lose your girlfriend that you love, the person you love. You could lose your freedom. You could go to jail, and if you attack people because you haven't spoken out against this the whole time, kind of thing. And yeah, and so he learns like, hey, this is worth fighting for when it's kind of on the smaller level. I can't avoid it because I could lose all of this.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big lesson,
Mm.
which is definitely works. And then, everything's great. He graduates from therapy. They hold a graduation ceremony and sing I Feel Pretty,
Yep.
which is
And circle each other holding hands and the whole group.
Yep. And Dave plays a whole joke on them, like pretending like somebody's coming after them and to scare them to kind of show like, hey, I'm in control. I can
Oh
I
yeah,
can stick up for
the
myself.
guy from, he's like, oh, are you Buddy Rydell? Yeah.
Yeah. So everything works out. Great movie.
Yeah.
Can't do that in therapy,
No.
obviously, not in real
No.
life, but
No.
good movie.
And it's fun too because honestly, when we picked this movie, like I was telling you, I was like, I know I've seen this movie. Which once it finished, I was like, oh yeah, I saw this movie, but I forgot the whole premise of it. So it was a nice surprise because I did not even realize that Jack Nicholson was a therapist. I had no idea that. I just figured Adam Sandler was this angry guy. I was thinking it was going to be the opposite. I was thinking like Adam was just like a hothead the whole time and was trying to calm down, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I had a similar I don't know, memory or whatever that's called, the butterfly effect or whatever that they're what is that?
Mandela
What is that?
effect.
The Mandela effect, yeah, that they're calling it or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if that even applies here, but yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, I kind of had these memories of it that I was like, I'm thinking of another movie. So I think we were thinking of another
Yeah.
movie, but um, yeah. So are you ready for
Yes, this is my favorite
our
part.
challenge
Yes. Oh, a
question?
challenge.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Um, well, I guess maybe not a challenge, maybe a fantastical challenge. Okay, so
Okay.
if you were to conduct the same type of therapy
Hmm.
that Dr. Rydell does, except, obviously like not, whatever, if you were able to do that,
Yeah.
what would your area of focus be
Oh.
for that? What would you want to do?
Oh. I would do
Like
some.
he does anger
Yeah.
management, but like,
So this is making me think of Maury Povich. Like, or was it Maury Povich or Geraldo that would all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, you're afraid of spiders? Guess what? Now there's a whole room of spiders. Or you're afraid of this? Like, he did the ultimate exposure therapy. So I would like to, like, if I did something like that, I think it would be fun to maybe not anger management, but maybe even try to find, okay, what is someone's biggest, like, their phobia? So they're afraid of spiders. Well, spiders I would not want to do. But if they're afraid of like bunny rabbits, or they're afraid like Monty Python or something. But like if they're afraid of something, some sort of creature or something, I would like to figure out their phobias and do exposure therapy of like, Oh, you don't like trains? We're going on a big long train ride. Oh, you don't like this? We're gonna go, you know, skydiving. I'm not gonna go skydiving with them, but if we did something like, I would like to do something like that because I think that would be kind of
Like
fun.
specific
Yeah,
phobias.
yeah.
That's so funny. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like I thought about my answer to this because I actually thought about this last night as I was falling asleep for some odd reason. And I was like, I would do specific phobias because I think that probably feels more concrete and feels like it would be beneficial
Hmm.
for this. So that probably feels good to be able to do. But yeah, I agree. I think it would be um kind of satisfying to be able to see and be like, okay, what is something that we can make some progress on that
Hmm.
we can kind of see and help this person through this and
Yeah,
see the results.
yeah. And I think too that feels, yeah, it feels more like you could do, it could be more behavioral focused too. Like if you need to have that data, like, okay,
Hmm.
well, they lasted 1 second or they didn't last at all, or we had to, it reverted back like 10 steps. And now, whatever. It just, I don't know. It could be interesting. And yeah, I instantly thought of, like, I think all of them did. I think Geraldo did it. I think Montel did it. I think they all did,
I
like,
think Jerry Springer did it the
yeah,
most,
oh, I'm sure he did.
honestly.
Like, here's a room full of snakes, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're afraid of your I don't know,
clown.
confronting your child's potential father and like not knowing who it is. Oh, they're here. They heard everything. Here they are, kind of thing. Let's do it right now. Like the better the confrontation,
Yeah.
the
Oh, you're
bigger
afraid of
the
that?
better.
Yeah, yeah, funny.
Yeah, it would just happen. Yeah, but yeah, so that's anger management. Ours would be
Phobia management.
phobia fighting or something.
Jerry Springer.
Whatever we would come up
Yeah,
with.
or else if you could do a Jerry Springer style therapy, that might be fun.
I would totally not do that because I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I
No,
cannot do
I
this
would
to a
not do that. I don't even
person."
want to do family therapy or couples counseling. So I would not want to do Jerry Springer style. But
Yeah,
I'm sure some
yeah,
people would love that.
yeah. That might be their niche, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's anger management. Let us know what you think. If we left anything out or something else you found funny, entertaining, some other points about
Yeah.
mental health or just in general. We
Hmm.
like it all.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And next show we're gonna get away from Adam for a minute, but so but he's coming
Just a
back.
bit,
Just
just a
but
bit.
he's coming
Yeah.
back. Don't worry. And
Yeah.
and again, as always, if you guys ever have any suggestions for 80s, 90s, or today of anything, it doesn't have to just be Adam, but let us know.
Yeah. We do really like Adam, but
Yeah, he is great.
um yeah, so don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. We're on all the socials, including YouTube, so you can see our lovely
Hmm.
faces and follow along. But yeah, and um, so yeah, I think that's it.
Hmm.
Don't forget, stay wicked.
And keep your mind well. All right, have a great week. Bye.
Bye, guys.